Hello. I'm back for another episode, well, another case of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Took me a little bit to get started. Let me know if the audio is too loud, cause I don't know if it is. I'll make sure it isn't too loud and isn't obscuring my voice for this time, because it was a little bit at the start of the last stream. If you missed the last stream, you can watch it on my VODs channel. Okay. The adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band. Okay.
In a corner of that small, dark room, Sholmes and I waited with bated breath. In time, there came from the ventilator a hiss and a soft, almost growl-like sound. Suddenly, Sholmes sprang into action, lashing furiously with his cane at a point in the darkness. "You see it, Wilson?" he yelled, his tense voice reverberating through the air. I raised my dark lantern's shutter, and the room slowly came into view. Sholmes was staring intently at one particular corner when he started whispering to me. The victim's most perplexing final words. The Speckled Band. I believe this is the terrible coil to which you referred, Wilson. In front of us was an enormous adder, its fangs bared as it threatened to strike. It truly was the most terrible speckled band I had ever seen.
January 6:37 a.m. on board the steamship Buria.
So then, let us unravel this mystery and discover what events led to this curious murder. Pray, do excuse me. The cabin door was bolted from the inside when the man was killed. No marks to suggest the bolt was tampered with in any way. So, this would appear to be a locked room mystery. In his final moments, the victim scrawled a message on the floor. Almost certainly with the ink from this upset bottle. A Russian word. So the victim was a Russian man then. And the letters are well formed, suggesting he was compos mentis at the time. This is a most extraordinary script. And evidently not penned by the same hand as this message. In fact, I deduce it was written by someone of a different nationality. This paper seal was placed just prior to the incident, by the victim himself, I would venture. Well, what have we here?
Who are you, and what do you think you're doing here?
No one must touch before maritime police come. We must wait.
Shh. That won't be necessary. You see, in less than 5 seconds from now, I will reveal the killer to you.
What? Don't be absurd. This is murder, and in cabin locked from inside.
Ah yes, the locked room. But that mystery is paper thin.
You don't mean the culprit is in there?
Who are you, and where have you come from?
I'm a great British consultant detective, the only one in the world. Sherlock Sholmes. I presume you must have heard of me.
Interesting. Who was that on the ground there? Ugh, my head is throbbing. What's going on? Something's not right here. There's trouble in the air. Wait, I can't move. Ah, what the? Wait, does that mean that who's on the ground was Asogi? Is he dead? No. Look at him. Why am I in handcuffs? So you wake up now, We had to drag you out of the wardrobe. I do not believe how you could not wake up. You are a true cold-blooded man. You found me then. Da, we found you. And now you pay criminal? How long are you hiding in that tiny wardrobe, sorry. Now you have been found, it is time to admit your crimes. Unless you want to find out how cold the ocean is, No, I'll tell you everything. There's only one thing I'd like to know from you. Isn't that... Why did you do it? Why did you take his life? Miss Sato? Wait, what did you just say? Take his life? Where is he? Where's Kazuma? Ha! You pretend you do not know? You are a wolf in sheep's pelt. You are the killer. Do not try to make excuses. What? Kazuma-sama's body was discovered not long ago. Here, in this very cabin, that was bolted shut from the inside. His body? Please, do not try to tell us you were doing this terrible thing in your sleep. Kazuma's dead? But he can't be. And these handcuffs, surely you don't think I have to know. Why did you take Kazuma-sama's life? Answer me, please. No. No! Kazuma, it was just 2 short weeks ago. Are you sure about this? Won't we get in trouble? Ha ha ha. Don't you find it fun being a stowaway? Besides, how else could you come to England with me to study? It was really something else when they brought your luggage in here earlier, though. The way that Russian crewman just tossed your traveling case onto the floor. I thought I was gonna die. Yes, I still can't quite believe that. I really didn't think you'd be able to fit inside my trunk. You must be even less of a man than you look. Hey, honestly, I thought I'd broken every bone in my body. Well, it's about 50 days until we dock in Great Britain. But if you confine yourself to my cabin here, I don't expect anyone will discover you. I hope not. I get the feeling those Russians wouldn't be very forgiving of a stowaway. They are a sturdy bunch, that's for sure. What I want to know is, why do we need to keep it a secret from the young lady? From our faithful judicial assistant Mikitoba, you mean? From your close friend, more to the point. Surely we can confide in her, couldn't we? I don't believe she'd give me away. No, but if she knew what we'd done, that would make her guilty by association. It's best that only you and I know about this. I suppose so. Anyway, it's about the time that the steward is supposed to come and clean the cabin. I know it's cramped, but you'd better get in there, I think. It won't be for long. And anyway, compared to hiding inside my traveling case, it'll be a breeze. Yes, but what if the steward decides to open the wardrobe for some reason? Then I'll be in for it. Stop worrying. I tell you what, why don't you write keep out or something on this piece of paper? What? Then I can stick it over the wardrobe doors once you're inside. I don't know. We've only been at sea for about 15 days. How can this have happened? We were supposed to be going on this adventure to England together. We leave you at next port. Stay quiet until then. Don't make more trouble for yourself. Murderer. No, I'm not a murderer. Da, you said before. You said you admit everything about your crimes. No, that's not right. I mean, yes, I did stow away on the ship, but murdering my best friend? No one else could have done it. Admit the truth. Sasato-san. Please, tell me what happened. I need to know. Very well. But there is something I would like to ask of you too. Those eyes. She looks like she's ready to destroy me. This nightmare is getting worse by the minute. I suppose all I can do is try to find out what really happened. About the incident. Oh. It's been interesting for the main character to be accused of murder twice. Can't anyone tell me what actually happened here in this cabin? I don't understand it. Why would anyone want to kill Cosma? Presumably that's something you know the answer to better than anyone. Please. Whatever you say, you were here in the cabin after all. Well, yes, I was, but... He would always awake before dawn and do his training first thing in the morning. I was waiting outside his cabin, as I have every day so far on this voyage. But this morning, he did not come. I could sense that he wouldn't. Does that mean he was already dead when Sasato-san arrived at his cabin door, I wonder? I knocked, but there was no reply. Then, I started to become worried, so I went to find a member of the crew. The crewman forced the cabin door open, and when we managed to get inside... There was Kazuma-sama, collapsed on the floor. And the white tape there now shows exactly where he was found, I suppose. I had no idea anything had happened. I must have been asleep in the wardrobe somehow. I wish it wasn't the case, but... that's just very hard to believe. Yeah. This is all very hard to believe for me, too. Trust me. Okay, about Kazuma's death. He really has been killed, hasn't he? This isn't just a bad dream. And these handcuffs, they think I did it? They think I'm Kazuma's killer? When they found him, the cabin was locked from the inside. What do you mean? There's no access to the cabin via a porthole window, and the bolt on the door can't be operated from outside. In other words, after the crime, the culprit couldn't have escaped these four walls. What? Or to put it another way, the culprit can only have been somebody inside this cabin. Or do you have some other explanation? This is impossible. How did he die then? What happened exactly? Are you still going to deny the charge, even despite the circumstances? Please, Sasato-san, you have to tell me. The cause of death is still undetermined. They don't know how he died? The ship's doctor is examining the body, but of course, he has no post-mortem analysis experience. I don't suppose we shall learn more until an expert has been consulted at our next port of call. So presumably that means there were no obvious external signs of injury then. That's true, yes. Now, I've told you everything that I know, so it's my turn to ask you a question. Yes, alright. My head feels so heavy. It's still throbbing like anything. Two new options. Stowaway. Why are you even on board this ship, Naruto-san? You said something before about being a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, yes. I'm afraid that's true. It's 2 weeks since we left Japan now, and I've been shut up in this cabin the entire time. I had no idea. But how could you have occupied Kazuma-sama's cabin for so long without him noticing? No. That would have been impossible, obviously. Yes, of course. Kazuma invited me. He wanted us to go to England together. He actually asked you, but why? I'm afraid I don't really know the reason myself. I don't understand. Kazuma, why do you want this? What's the real reason? Why go to such extreme lengths to smuggle me to England with you? It's an idea that's been on my mind ever since the end of that incredible trial. I think I told you then, didn't I? That you ought to become a lawyer yourself? Well, yes, you did say that, but I didn't think you were serious. You have a talent for it, I can assure you of that. And his headband still blows as if there's wind in this cabin, despite it literally being impossible for there to be wind in this cabin. But I've never really thought about becoming a lawyer. Well, that's something you can decide for yourself. London is at the spearhead of cultural development, the center of the world in many ways. There can't be any harm in seeing such an important place with your own eyes, can there? Well, no, definitely not. But on a personal level, if you were to become a lawyer, then what? Nothing. Forget it. Kazuma-sama he was always saying the same thing, that he wanted to change the Japanese legal system. Perhaps he thought that he could do that with you. Yes, maybe. But something's still bothering me a little. The look in his eyes then, it was darker than I've ever seen it before. Sasata-san, I'm sorry that we kept it a secret from you, my stowing away on the ship, I mean. If I know Kazuma-sama, I expect he was trying to protect me, to avoid me becoming guilty by association. That is exactly right, yes. Word perfect, in fact. If you're not the culprit, then tell me. What happened last night here in this cabin? Well, the thing is, I don't really remember. Kazuma brought me something to eat, just like he always did. And then I got myself into that wardrobe over there, just like I always did. After that, I fell asleep? Well, yeah. So deeply that you didn't even stir when Kazuma-sama was killed? Well, yes. I know it sounds unbelievable, really, I do, but it's the truth. If only I'd woken up, then perhaps I wouldn't be in this predicament. For some reason, my head's still throbbing like anything. Really? Is something wrong? Oh, no, it is. Please forget it. Sasatsu-san, you have to believe me. I didn't do it. I really don't want to doubt you. But the trouble is, there is no one else who could possibly have done this. Kazuma, I don't understand. Why? Why did this have to happen? Ark, I can't take this. Don't try to go anywhere. You are the perpetrator of this crime. You can't leave. I can't allow that to happen. I'm sorry. But Kazuma was killed right under my nose here, and I didn't do anything to stop it. And now I'm supposed to just sit around? My hands tied while whoever did this walks free? No, I can't allow that to happen. Well, what do you propose to do then? I'm going to investigate. I'm going to find out exactly what happened here. I'm going to work out who took Cosmo's life and how and why they did it. So I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to excuse me. Yeah. Ow. Just threw me onto the floor. What the? That was a Susato takedown. Susato what? What martial art from that form is that? I'm going to need you to prove it. Sorry? Prove it? Yes, you're innocent. I need evidence. But how am I supposed to... Have you forgotten already? What you achieved just a few weeks ago. You successfully defended yourself in a court of law. Ah, I see. She's expecting me to present some conclusive evidence. I have to get Susato-san to believe me. I'll show her some evidence right now that proves I'm not guilty of this awful crime. I mean, this is the only thing besides the university collar pin that I have.
Yes!
I'll just proceed to... When I was discovered in the wardrobe before, was this piece of paper stuck over the doors? Oh, yes, it was. I remember clearly. I thought so. Cosmo always put it in place whenever I went to sleep in there, just in case the cabin steward or another crew member decided to look inside. So naturally, he did the same last night as well. Ah, yes, of course. The gentleman who discovered you peeled that sign from the wardrobe doors before he opened them. But if I were truly the culprit, I couldn't have climbed back inside the wardrobe and stuck this on the outside of the doors on my own. Yes, that is quite true. In other words, it's impossible that I killed Kazuma. It's not impossible from there, but... Well, even if you are sprawled hopelessly on the floor, I can see why Kazuma-sama thought so highly of you. Thank you, Susato-san. Now, do you think perhaps you could help me up? Well, in the light of that evidence, I don't see any reason why I should stop you from investigating in here, at least. Thank you. So you finally believe me? I'm sorry, no. What? I'm not sure yet. I can't rule out the possibility that you used some sort of conjuring trick to put the sign back in position. What does she think I am, a magician? For now, I suggest you investigate as thoroughly as possible in here. I'll do the same. Alright, let's get to work, Susato-san. Please, don't misunderstand me. I still have my doubts. Oh. I shall be watching you to make sure you do nothing that might disturb the crime scene. I wouldn't want you using your conjuring tricks to destroy the evidence, for example. Right. Well, anyway, I should make a start on investigating in here. Examine everything I can. Kazuma, I swear, I will avenge your death. Okay, can finally look around and do more Ace Attorney stuff. I've been meaning to ask, should I use a webcam during my streams? I do have a webcam. It's really low quality though. If anyone in chat could let me know if they'd like to see a webcam, then I'd be... actually, no. I'll do... I'll at least put something up on screen so you can see it. Let's see. Let's see. I've got something you can look at. There. I hope that works as something that you that. Of course, I don't know anything of what I'm doing, but it's doing. Okay, let's actually look around and stuff now. Seiji, the Japanese word for justice. The brush strokes are straight and true, just like Kazuma. Yes, his calligraphy always was a reflection of his heart. Yet can you really look at those characters without feeling shame, knowing who drew them so thoughtfully? Of course I can. I mean, I'm innocent, so why shouldn't I be able to? Even though you stowed away on the ship? Now you're going to bring that up, are you? I can't win. Oh dear, that won't do. Oh, what's the matter, Sasata-san? Whenever I'm examining things, I always find myself so focused I forget to look around properly. Ah yes, that's not good. I don't suppose you're as foolish as me in that regard, are you, Naruhodo-san? Well, yeah, I can see those. I'm sure you're careful to look all around using B and M, aren't you? Now, let's investigate all corners of this cabin. I investigated one thing. I suppose my field of vision has been rather small until now. That's Kazuma-sama's precious sword. He never went anywhere without it. Yes, he was always saying that a Japanese man's katana is his soul. I believe he had to work very hard to convince the government to allow him to bring it on this trip. I suppose that shows just how important it was to him. And now, he's gone. But I'm not ready to let his spirit go just yet. What next? What's this? These are the rules of passage for travel aboard the SS Buria. It's essentially a list of requests from the captain to all passengers on board. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. What? Why are you staring at me? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking, are you more of a dangerous object or a pet? I don't know. Definitely not a dangerous object. But I'm not sure about a pet either. Well, one thing's for sure, either way, I wasn't supposed to be in here. Did Cosmo write that before he died? It looks like it's written in ink. He must have knocked the ink pot from the desk when he collapsed on the floor. Then I suppose he wrote this message by dipping his finger in the spillage. Poor Kazuma-sama. No doubt he was in terrible pain. It's almost unbearable to imagine it. I suppose he was trying to leave some kind of clue in his final moments, was he? I'm sorry, partner, but I can't read your writing. I don't think that's Japanese, Naruto-san. What? Then what language is it? It pains me to admit it, but I don't know. It's not a foreign script I'm familiar with. What does it mean, I wonder? That's a very large traveling case, isn't it? Yes, it carries a lot of memories for me. Memories? What do you mean? Well, that's actually how I was stowed away on this vessel. I was brought aboard in that case. Ah, yes, I see it says "this way up" in Japanese. Which in hindsight, I should have realized the foreign crewmen wouldn't be able to read. I was turned over and over and over, and then I was tossed on the floor in here. Oh dear. Being a stowaway isn't as romantic as it sounds. I wouldn't think that being a stowaway would be romantic in the first place. Well, it was less painful than a Sasato takedown. I've investigated thoroughly, but I can't find anything out of place. What about this? That's my dinner from last night, a roast chicken. It was really tasty. Yes, it was very delicious, wasn't it? But, did you eat it on the floor in here? I'm not a dog, Sasato-san. I ate at the table, of course. Which begs the question of when and how the plate ended up on the floor, and also how it didn't shatter. But Kazuma-sama didn't like chicken at all, did he? No, that's right, so he didn't touch it. Which meant all the more for me. Oh no, does that mean poor Kazuma-sama spent his night on this earth with an empty belly? It's just too horrible. Now I suddenly have a guilty conscience and an achy stomach. Speak to the crewman last. This is where dear Kazuma-sama would have sat whenever he was writing. London Diary. Poor Kazuma. He didn't even make it to his destination. Looks as though the last entry is incomplete, which means, what, he was in the middle of writing it when the incident happened? Let's see what it says. It could be a valuable clue. Hiya! And I'm back on the floor. That's out of the question. What? Kazuma-sama may have departed this world, but you must not read his private thoughts. But what if it's something important, something relevant to the case? Alright, I won't read it. Poor Kazuma-sama. I don't like prying into other people's personal matters either. But in this case, isn't the need for clues more important? I think that's some kind of opening for a ventilator. A hole through which fresh air can circulate into the cabin. Isn't that a little odd? What do you mean? Well, this ventilator, if that's what it is, looks like it must connect to the next door cabin. Yes, it would appear to, you're right. But if its purpose is to allow fresh air into the room, surely it should be connected to the outside. That's true. Perhaps it's so that rain and spray don't find their way in when the seas are rough, or something like that? I suppose. Maybe that's it. How did you get there? Who's that? He wasn't there a minute ago. As far as I can tell, it looks like he might be European. Oh, how did he... You've noticed the man too, haven't you? I have no idea who he is or how he got in there, but he looks suspicious and tall. Suspiciously tall. Naruhodo-san, don't tell me. Do you really not know who that is? Well, no. I don't have any foreign friends or acquaintances at all. He doesn't look like a member of the crew. There's something very unusual about him. He looks straight out of like a fantasy book or something. And is he investigating Kazuma's desk or is he just playing on it? I can't tell. Well, in that case, we simply must talk with him. Am I just imagining it, or does Sato-san look almost uncontrollably excited? By the way, I expect that you've noticed already, but just in case, if you press space on people when they're in the crosshairs, you can converse with them. Alright then, I'll get that suspiciously tall gentleman in my sights and see what he has to say for himself. Oh, please do. It's some 2 weeks since we set sail from Japan. Have you really been living in that wardrobe the entire time, Naruto-san? I think living isn't quite the right description. Oh, no. I suppose not. Although it must have been rather exciting, making this voyage in your own secret hideout. The trouble was, I never knew when a member of the crew might come in. So yes, I did basically have to live in the wardrobe. And last night was no exception. But because of that, you had no idea what was happening out here in the cabin. No, sadly not. When I went for help and the crewman forced the door open, this bolt had been firmly closed. It's quite a small bolt and not particularly sturdy, and it just slides across to secure the door shut. But still, with the door bolted, there would be no way to get in or out of the cabin, that's for sure. It's no wonder everyone suspects me. When she glares at me like that, I feel tense all up and down my spine. I remember reading once in a detective novel, the culprit used a needle and thread to draw a bolt across from outside the room in a situation like this. Yes, that's a clever trick, isn't it? I'm an avid reader of detective stories myself. But the door of this cabin and its frame are made of metal, and they seal together perfectly. There would be no possibility of using that needle and thread trick here, I'm afraid. When she glares at me like that, I feel pins and needles all up and down my spine. Okay. Perhaps I should see what this Russian crewman makes of the scene of the crime. Excuse me. What? I was wondering how it's going. The investigation, I mean. Grandmother told me Japanese people do not make jokes, but it is not true, I see. Sorry? The criminal asking investigator for information about his crime? Very funny. Oh, it wasn't supposed to be a joke. He doesn't appear to be laughing either. He's convinced you're guilty. He might have useful information though. I have to keep trying. So, last night, did you notice anything out of the ordinary at all? Yet, of course not. Now back to corner of room and make silent. I say no more to you. Did I hit a nerve? Just for a minute there, he seemed a little flustered. Talk to the suspicious gentleman over here. Excuse me. Excuse me, do you have a moment? Shh! This is a critical point in my investigation. Maybe I should leave him alone. He seems a little unfriendly. Yes, perhaps that would be for the best. Greetings! I hope I haven't kept you long. Ah! What exactly were you doing on Cosmo's desk just now? Ah, I see. Fascinating. Sorry? What do you see? It feels like he's looking right through me. Yes. Everything is clear now. The train of reasoning has run its course. My deductions have crystallized. You have been Afghanistan, I perceive. It just recently returned, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's stupid. I think that this guy is chronically stupid. Sorry, what? And now, whilst venturing toward foreign climes, you find yourself in a most troubling predicament. Oh, well, that's true at least. But how? How the deuce did I know that, perhaps? It was really a most elementary deduction, hardly worth explaining. Have you perhaps managed to deduce anything else? But of course, a great many things. There is no mystery, my dear madam. For example, you have fled your native land of Russia, being as you are a merciless revolutionary. You leave 16 victims of assassination in your wake and now travel to England to blow up the Crystal Tower. And when the beribboned occupant of this very cabin discovered your identity, you ended his life too. Yes, I believe that summarizes the facts beautifully. No need to hide the truth now. Nothing deceives these eyes. Just to be clear, you are talking about me, are you? Certainly I am. Do you see another in this cabin who fits the bill? A Russian assassin with 16 victims to his name? I do not even see one person who fits the bill. So it's true. It was you who did this to Kazuma-sama. What? And you're plotting revolution too. It's shameful behavior, Naruto-san. Absolutely wicked. No, listen. There's no way yeah, back on the floor. Now explain yourself. Tell me everything. This is ridiculous. How could you do it? For pity's sake, open your eyes. I'm not a Russian revolutionary, obviously. Oh, forgive me. As for you, what kind of deduction was that? You were just saying the first thing that came into your head. Ah, but was I not right? Whilst venturing toward foreign climes, you do find yourself in a most troubling predicament, do you not? Well, yes, maybe. Ha! There you have it. You see, what do you make of that, Well, to be honest, the ship is en route to England, and I'm in handcuffs at the scene of a murder. So, I'm not really sure you could call it a deduction. It's more plain observation. Indeed, and observation, my dear boy, is the basis of all deduction. My method is founded upon the observation of trifles, you see. I announce my findings with a brassy certitude, and more often than not, I'm right. I don't think you introduced yourself. Ah, my apologies. How remiss of me. I am none other than the greatest detective of the century, known to men and women the world over. The inimitable Sherlock Holmes. So it's really you, the actual Sherlock Holmes? The very same, the imitable, actual Sherlock Holmes. Do you know this man, Susato-san? The most famous detective in the world? Naruto-san, of course I do. There's nobody who hasn't heard of him. What planet have I been living on then? We must ask him what he's deduced. He will have worked out the entire case already, I'm sure. Really? Why do I feel uneasy about this? Investigate the great detective. So you're a great detective, are you? Sorry, what was your name again? Indeed, I am none other than the one and only Sherlock Holmes. Oh, I see you are German. Sherlock, was it? No, I have no hair. Please, call me Holmes. You can read all about my exploits in this exciting London publication. Oh yes, Rand's magazine, full of wonderful short stories and interesting articles from Great Britain. I never miss an issue. I have it sent from England especially. Ah, yes, here it is. The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. So, you're the protagonist in a series of short stories then? Indeed I am. And you've read so many of your own stories, you've started to think you really are a detective? Make no mistakes. That's the wrong one. History. Make no mistake, I'm not the poor deluded fellow you take me for. Your inference is backward. Backward? My trusty biographer records my greatest detecting achievements and chronicles them in the magazine. You have a biographer, do you? Doesn't everyone? Mine goes by the name of Dr. Wilson, presently keeping shop in London. Dr. Wilson? I must say, thanks to that publication, I've been fantastically busy of late. Why? This very moment I'm returning from Asia, having solved the mystery of a cursed royal crown. Really? I can't work out whether I should take this man seriously or not. Deduction, you see, is to me a science, logical reasoning in its purest form. Science? Really? The astute observer noticed even the most subtle of reactions in a subject. A furtive glance, a twitch of a muscle, a slight inclination of posture. Fingernails, arm sleeves, furrows in the skin, all these things are data. Right. And the trained logician makes deductions from this data in the blink of an eye. The ultimate conclusion is, without fail, the truth. As I demonstrated only a few short moments ago, how can you look me in the eye and claim that? So you see, I have a turn both for observation and for deduction and fame. That is what makes me the one and only Sherlock Sholmes. Cosmo's death. Have you managed to deduce anything about this particular case yet? Have I managed to deduce anything? My dear fellow! Who do you suppose discovered the culprit in his most cunning hiding place? That's right. It was none other than the greatest detective before you. Now, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. Ah, I see. In other words, I'm in these now because of him. When I became anxious about Cosmo-sama this morning, I summoned all of the crew members to force the cabin door open. And I concealed myself among their numbers, gaining entry to the scene of the crime. Yes, luckily for everyone, the great detective Sherlock Sholmes was on board. And the handcuffs seemed to be an excellent fit, Mr. Naruhodo. Hark. The very moment I laid eyes on the scene, two facts were immediately apparent to me. Oh really? Two facts, you say? Two facts. Mr. Sholmes, tell us, please. What two facts were apparent to you when you came into this cabin this morning? Yes, but first, let us be precise. The two facts in question were immediately apparent to me. Yes, I understand. But what were they? Allow me to elucidate. The two facts that I deduced from a mere momentary glance at the scene of the crime were as follows. Number 1. The cabin was locked from within, rendering escape of the culprit out of the question. Number 2. The victim was Russian and killed following a dispute with an acquaintance. Hold on, Mr. Sholmes. What made you think the victim was Russian? Observe the dying message left by the victim on the floor. I have no idea if that's actually Russian. That is the Russian word for wardrobe. Don't know what that says. Do you really think Cosmo-sama could have left a dying message in Russian? In their final moments, many find their native tongue filling their head. For this young man, Russian. Cosmo was Russian? What was he? Initially, I considered Gardarov may be the name of the killer, a certain Robert Gard, perhaps. But in the interest of thoroughness, I decided it would be wrong not to look inside the wardrobe, there at least, where you found Mr. Naruhodo sleeping soundly. Quite so. I found you, the renowned Russian revolutionary killer. Why is it that I'm Russian too? Everyone's Russian, apparently. I observed that you were wearing the same attire as the victim. In other words, you were acquaintant. And if my memory serves, that is the traditional dress of the Russian people. Our school uniforms are the traditional dress of the Russian people? I had no idea. And I had no idea a detective could hit something so wrong. I took a photograph of the victim and the message that I might analyze if it for possible hidden details. This was taken immediately after the young man was discovered, before the body was removed. Yes, Cosmo had already been taken away when I woke up. This is the first time I've actually seen him like this. His band has finally stopped flying. Are you alright, Mr. Naruto? Oh, yes, thank you. The photograph, the crime, record. Can I ask you something, Mr. Sholmes? What, pray? You mentioned Russia before as well, didn't you? You know, when you said I was a fearsome revolutionary from Russia and all that. Ah, yes, the train of reasoning that led me to the truth. Would you mind explaining that train of reasoning to me, do you think? Certainly, if it interests you. How many times? I'm not Russian, and I don't speak Russian. Can we talk about your deduction before? The things you concluded about me, I mean. Ah, the now famously accurate, troubling predicament you find yourself in. Actually, it was the other details that I was more hoping to discuss. You know, the merciless Russian revolutionary and assassin of 16 part? Ah, yes, the more sordid details. It was a fairly commonplace deduction. Here we have this morning's paper. The main headline reads, Revolutionary villain Bolshevik flees Russia via Shanghai. This vessel made a port call at Shanghai yesterday, and last night the young Russian was murdered. Since when was Cosmo a Russian? It sounds like Mr. Sholmes has concluded he was Russian because of what Sama wrote on the floor. It was a simple act of reasoning to realize that the culprit of this crime was the same merciless revolutionary. One who would kill the very man who helped him to escape after his true identity was discovered. Yes, you, villain Bolshevik. No. How could it be me? I don't even look like this man. Just look at his face. Well, you are a fearsome revolutionary after all. Therefore, you have no doubt learnt to revolutionize your appearance as well. Ugh, please. And I might add, your name does not appear on the ship's passenger list, need I say more? Well, that's because I'm a stowaway. What about the other details? The 16 victims of assassination and blowing up the Crystal Tower? Ah, yes, the journalist clearly interviewed the man and printed all these particulars in the article. The deeds the man has perpetrated thus far and those he is plotting. Yes, everything about the revolutionary Bolshevik was included. There can be no mistake. Do revolutionaries usually agree to interviews with newspaper reporters, I wonder? And what about the part where you said I was just returning from Afghanistan? Also quite clearly stated here in the article. Bolshevik is recently returned after a period of subversive activities in a war-torn region of Afghanistan. Where even is it anyway? This Afghanistan place. I think it's in Africa. I can't remember. It's Africa or Asia. Here, take the paper for yourself as a little memento of this great deduction. Oh, thank you. I've absorbed all that is of interest to me within its pages, but I see no rubbish bin nearby. The article about the revolutionary has been added to enter the court record. And you may find the article on the back of the page of interest as well, on the back. Cast your eye over it sometime if the interest takes you, though you may need someone to interpret. It's all written in Russian. I couldn't hope to read that. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt just to glance at the article. Maybe there might be a picture or two. We were just investigating. Before we started talking, you were examining Kazuma's desk, weren't you? Kazuma? Ah, yes, the victim. Did you notice anything useful? Anything at all? Observe for a moment. The desktop of the victim. We see that the victim was engaged in penning some text. London diary. Kazuma was keeping notes of the trip. Ah, yes. Ah, but... I don't think you should read his private writings. It could upset people. Tragic, and something you ought to perhaps elucidate before the act of reading. You mean you've read it already? It isn't my business to know what other people do not. Yes, believe it or not, I know a smattering of Japanese. Oh, I see. You're about to know what a Sasada takedown is. Sasada-san? Aren't you gonna throw the detective with one of your trademark takedowns? I'm sorry, Noda-san. What on earth do you mean? Life is so unfair. Anyway, to return to the matter at hand, namely, this diary belonging to the victim. It would appear the final sentence is incomplete, as if the author were cut short. Tell me, what is the nature of the writing? Pray be precise as to the details. Oh, but I thought you knew Japanese. A smattering, dear boy, a smattering. Sayonara, banzai, Mikaido. Nado nado. I trust you're suitably impressed. But this diary is littered with complicated looking characters of which I can read precisely none. So what was all that showing off about before then? If you would be so kind as to show me, I would be happy to read it to you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm much obliged, my dear madam. The final entry here in Kazuma-sama's diary consists of just two short sentences. The first reads, 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. A whistling sound? These are very deep waters. Pray, go on. The second sentence reads, 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? What on earth does that mean? I have no idea. I've never heard that expression before. The ventilator grill, you say? The man was presumably referring to the lattice there on the wall, which connects to the adjoining cabin. Yes, the adjoining cabin. Kazuma's diary has been entered into the court record. So, I believe I've given you enough to consider for the time being, at least. Ah, do you have somewhere to go? As it happens, the victim's writings in his diary have piqued my interest. The matter warrants further investigation, I believe, and I am still too long, the seasickness takes hold. Oh, I suppose. You're thinking of investigating the cabin next door, which the ventilator connects to? Great detectives are a curious breed. Our minds rebel at stagnation. We crave mental exaltation. So yes, I intend to investigate. Hence, the truth will become clear soon enough. Do you think, perhaps, that we could go with you? No. That would be somewhat complicated. What? But why? A simple glance at your wrist should reveal the answer. Oh, these. After all, you are the prime suspect in this matter, no? There's no point trying to turn it into a question. You're the one who decided I was the culprit in the first place. Whatever do you mean? I have no recollection of naming you as the culprit at any point. You must be joking. You just said it only a moment ago. Dear me, you are clearly misguided. I would have no cause to say such a thing. Well, actually, Mr. Sholmes, I did hear you say that too. You're quite sure? Well, that's very strange. I wouldn't have said you had the face of a criminal, you know. Not really. So what, were you looking at my knees before? Some great detective you are. Well, anyway, that was then and this is now. What do you mean? What I mean, sir, is this. If you are the culprit, then you must play the part more convincingly. Roll over and accept your fate. Ah ha ha! Now, he's just being plain rude. And off he goes, having just laughed in my face. His sense of humor is as twisted as his name. Naruhodo-san, what are you just standing there for? We must go and investigate the cabin next door as well. Aren't you forgetting something? What about these? Hiya! After Kazuma-sama spent his dying moments struggling to leave us a clue, you're willing to give up? You're just gonna roll over and accept your fate? As if you gave me any choice in the rolling over part. I think we still have some investigation to finish off in here first, don't we? Let's carry on examining what we can in this cabin while we wait for a chance to slip next door. Good idea. The situation doesn't look good for me, but there are still things I can do to help myself. And I owe it to Kazuma to do everything I can to find a way out of this and bring the real culprit to justice. Okay. The books have fallen over on the shelf. Look, they've all toppled the same way. And what's this? A statue of some god of the sea? Although he's fallen over as well, yes, it's almost as if the whole shelf has been ransacked and everything mown down at once. I wonder if... perhaps it was Kazuma-sama doing his morning sword training, do you think? I seriously doubt that. Then perhaps... it was you, Naruhodo-san, in a fit of rage. I wouldn't have bothered leaving the wardrobe just to mess up a few books and a statue. Could the way these things have been thrown about have anything to do with the case, I wonder? Well, I'll just set everything straight again. I don't like to see a mess. This is where Kazuma-san was writing. London Diary, poor Kazuma. He didn't even make it to his destination. Okay, yeah, I've already read this. What do you think this is? It looks like a broken piece of glassware. Whatever the thing was, it appears to have broken clean in two. Where's the other half then? The glass is such a beautiful color. It looks like a cute little Netsuke fastener for my kimono outfit. I'm not sure that sounds like Kazuma. He wouldn't have secretly carried a cute little trinket like this around with him, would he? And the mark beside it, what is it, I wonder? It's sort of brick-like hue. Yes, you're right. It is the color of brick, isn't it? Even though I don't see anything of the same color anywhere else in the cabin. Oh, look over there. The crewman. What do you mean? He wasn't there before, was he? That's what I thought. Why don't we try talking to him? Probably because I'm likely to get yelled at again, but I suppose I could try. Looks exactly like Looks a little like Hosanaga with his glasses and hairstyle. Is something wrong, Naruto-san? Oh, no, it's just that crewman standing by the door. I can't help but feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Oh, yes, you're right. He does look familiar. Excuse me, sir. Yes? What can I do for you? I recognize that face, but it can't be. still coughing up all his blood. It is. I didn't know you were here, Inspector Hosonaga. Hello again. What are you doing here? I think that should be my line. I was so stunned when I saw you, my heart stopped. Nearly stopped, I hope. I received some special orders to go undercover as a member of the crew and board this ship. Again? You certainly seem to enjoy undercover work, Inspector. If there's anything I can do to help you, please ask. I never expected to see this man on board. Perhaps his presence can help me out of this hopeless situation. Special orders. So what are your special orders this time, Inspector? Yes, and why are you dressed as a member of the crew? Don't think you can tell us that. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I take full responsibility. For what? My orders were to act as Asogi's son's bodyguard. It was Minister of Justice Jigoku who pushed for this overseas studies tour to go ahead. And he entrusted me with ensuring that Asogi-san reached Great Britain without being assassinated. Assassinated? How could that even have been a possibility? I'm not sure, but these are complicated times. There are tensions between the world's greatest powers. Minister Jigoku said we should be prepared for all eventualities. This is incredible. I don't believe it. Kazuma-sama was assassinated? Obviously, we couldn't give Asogi-san a visible security escort. Which is why I'm undercover now, posing as one of the crew. I see. And I didn't take my eyes off him the entire time we've been on board, from morning until night, every day. But I never imagined it would happen here, inside his own cabin, not here on the first class deck. I failed miserably at my assignment, and Asogi-san is dead as a result. I'm a disgrace. All I can do is humbly apologize, Inspector. So if there's anything at all I can do to help now, just say the word. Permission to investigate. We're doing what we can to investigate Kazuma's death ourselves. I thought you might be. You didn't do it, did you? You're not the killer. Of course not! We'd really like to investigate the cabin next door. Yes. So, we need to be allowed out of this cabin. I'm sorry. What? You've been deemed a risk to the ship's safety. If you move to even touch the handle of the cabin door, that stormy-looking seaman there would surely snap your neck in two. I suppose I'm not just a stowaway now. They think I'm a murderer as well. Would it be possible to give me something to work with, do you think? I'm going to need something persuasive. What do you mean? If I had a solid reason why the next door cabin should be investigated, for example, I'd do everything I could to persuade the captain to allow it. Really, I'd lay my life on the line if I had to. But I don't see how. There may be a way. What, really? Think of how you tried to persuade me of your innocence, Naruto-san, by presenting me with a piece of evidence that you already had in your possession. Evidence? It's just the same as when you are in court. You must have done it many times during your trial. Simply select the present panel and choose some evidence that Inspector Hosonaga could use. So, evidence that would give us a viable reason to investigate the next door cabin, is it? Alright, yes. I think I might know what we can use. Let's see if I can present the detective with the evidence he needs to persuade the captain. Definitely wouldn't be this one, and it wouldn't be this one, so it'd have to be this one. What's that? It's Kazuma's diary. Just before he died, Kazuma-sama wrote something rather strange in his diary. Strange? In what way? This tune reminds me of Made in Abyss. I really like it. He wrote, what looks like some kind of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? That is strange. Yes, we're still trying to work out what he meant by that. But what I'd like to know is... Don't tell me. The ventilator, is it? You're very astute, Inspector. That ventilator clearly joins the next door cabin. That's right. So if we can investigate there, we might be able to work out what the speckled band was. Alright then. I can't leave this cabin at the moment. I'm stuck here until we arrive at the next port. The captain has given me strict orders to guard the scene of the crime, you see. I'll have to entrust the investigation to you. Really? You're willing to do that? Yes, as long as you don't leave the first-class cabin area. I'm afraid I can't remove those handcuffs, though. But what about the captain? Aren't you going against his direct orders? Ahem. I'm a man of my word. And I promise you that I'll lay my life on the line if that's what it takes to convince the captain. After all, I failed to keep Asogi-san safe. This is the least I can do. Thank you. Let's seize the moment then, Naruto. Just select move and we can leave this cabin at last. Move. Alright, let's see what we can find out. Finally go. We can finally leave the cabin. 9th January, 7:48 a.m. SS Burya, first class, cabin passageway. Whew, I'm finally out of that cabin. I have to admit, this isn't quite what I was expecting. It's less spacious out here than I thought it would be, and this is the most luxurious accommodation. Yes, indeed. Kazuma-sama was being sent on this study tour by the government. That's why he was put in the first-class cabin. Even still, this is about twice as large as my accommodation in steerage. Really? That must be awful. Give me a second. Oh, look for there. There's another crewman keeping watch, and he looks enormous, even if he is sitting down. The door next to him leads to the second-class accommodation. I suppose he's making sure that no one comes in here who shouldn't. I suppose, like people in handcuffs? Naruto-san, you look like a little boy visiting a toy shop for the first time. I would have thought you'd be used to the ship by now. We've been at sea for 2 weeks already. Well, yes, I know, but the thing is, I was inside Cosmo's trunk when I first came aboard. And ever since then, I've been shut up inside that little wardrobe. Must have been a very trying time for you. Please, don't give me that pitying look. Okay. Let's examine this stuff around here. That's a huge book on top of the table there, and there's a pen next to it. Yes, that looks like the ship's log. Shall we have a little look through it? The writing is so neat and precise. Every detail about the voyage has been meticulously recorded. You wouldn't expect a rough and ready sailor to have such beautiful handwriting. And nothing. No reaction at all. I thought he might appreciate the compliment. I'm not sure that rough and ready is much of a compliment, Naruto-san, even to a sailor. Anyway, last night's log is mostly blank. Presumably that means there was nothing to report. I'm not quite sure that's the case, though. This looks like a plan of the SS Burya. It shows each deck. Look. The Buria is a large-scale steamship with a triple-skinned hull. What a marvel of engineering. Well, it's been playing on my mind for a while now, actually, but how is it that such a huge lump of metal doesn't just sink to the bottom of the ocean? Oh, that's really quite simple, Naruto-san. It is? Well, consider the Japanese archipelago. The islands of Japan? Yes, they're not metal, but they are enormous lumps of earth, many, many times larger than the ship is. And they don't sink, do they? They've been floating happily on the sea since the gods created them. Well, I suppose so. Excuse me, but could I ask you something? What does his face look like? A Christmas present, kinda. Like he's got stripes all over his face. You little stowaway murderer. That wasn't a good start, was it? Alright, let me try this instead. Good day, Mr. Sailor. I'm so sorry to trouble you, but could I perhaps ask you something of you? You little third-class ladies' maid? Oh, that didn't go good either. Oh. We seem to have caught this sailor on a bad day, Sasada-san. I am not sailor. My mother gave me name. I am senior crewman Biff Stroganoff. Ooh, the best thing is just to avoid eye contact, I think. First cabin area. Mr. Stroganoff, about this first cabin area, class cabin area. Here we are in finest part of Burnya ship. For very important persons. What sort of very important persons? Government officials, kings and queens traveling in secret, many important persons. That is why I am always guarding this place. Gosh, that's amazing. But somehow I let stupid stowaway inside. I want to pick you up and throw you in ocean, but Stroganoff is not animal. Thank you, I guess. If I may, I was wondering... Is the cabin next to Mr. Asoki's currently occupied? Da. Sasada-san, did you understand that? It sounded like da. I think it's probably Russian for yes. Or no. I think it's Russian for yes. Genius. It is not permitted to visit other cabins without invitation. Well, it sounds like there's somebody in the next door cabin at least. Yes, it's tantalizing. Ooh, passenger in the next door cabin. Could you tell us who's traveling in the cabin next to Mr. Asogi's? His name is Mr. Grimsby Roylott. He is very important Western gentleman. A Western gentleman? Do not think about it. He has nothing to do with murder of student boy. How can you be so sure about that? Mr. Roylott is an authentic Western gentleman. Such a man would have no interest in lowly student from insignificant Far East islands. Damn. That was harsh. Could you tell us when Mr. Roylott came aboard? Oop, I skipped that on accident. That is not your business. Come to think of it, even though we've been at sea for 2 weeks now, and I've been in Cosmic's cabin the entire time, I've never once heard anything from the next door cabin, or even felt like there's anyone there. Well, presumably, since this gentleman is occupying one of the first-class cabins, he must be rather important. Is that right? He must have came aboard last night then. That is not your business. Are you on watch here all the time, Simon Stroganoff? Da, all time. So criminals like you cannot come in or get out. I wonder, could you tell us anything about last night at all? It is sad about student boy. Were you on watch last night as well? Of course. And did you notice anything at the time? Anything unusual? Hit. Sasada-san, did you understand that? It was clearly a no. I saw nothing unusual, nothing at all. I'm going to look that up because I'm not sure what that was. Okay. I mean, yeah, it was no. I saw nothing unusual, nothing at all. And you didn't hear any strange noises or sense anything was wrong in some way? I said no. Sorry. I'm not so sure. I could have sworn that he wouldn't catch my eye for a moment there. This is enough. I cannot say more now. Oh, it is time for me to report to Captain. You must return to cabin. Yes, alright. Bulkhead to second class area is staying locked at all times. You escape when the lobster whistles on top of the mountain, or as English say, when the pigs fly. Yes, I understand. Good. Now we can investigate this area properly, shall we? Definitely. Examine. That's the way to the second class area of the ship. Is something wrong? I was thinking about making a run for it, just for a moment. Things aren't exactly going well for me. I might be wrong, but I imagine the moment you reach for the handle of the door, that burly seaman would shoot you dead. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Perhaps I went a little too far there. No, I started with my talking of running away. And there's no way I could run away while Cosmo's death remains a mystery anyway. The book on top of the table there really is huge. There's a pen with it too. Yes, I'm sure that's the ship's log. Shall we have a little look through? Writing is so neat and precise. Anything new? Wasn't. Yeah, no, nothing new. Mouse. Ah, a trap for catching mice. Yes, we have plenty of those back home in Japan. Although they seem to be using a lump of chalk or something as bait. Let me see. Yes, I think that's what is called cheese. It's made from the milk of cows. Cheese? I wonder what that tastes like. You can't eat it, Naruto-san. The trap will snap shut on your fingers. Really? But, I suppose you are right. You weren't actually going to try it, were you? All I've had to eat for the past couple of weeks is Cosmo's leftovers. You don't know how hungry I've been in that wardrobe. Poor you. I'll find a little snack for you later. What do you think this is? It's a very pleasing shape, isn't it? That is the emergency alarm. It's probably best not to touch it. Oh, an alarm? It says, press only in times of emergency. It looks as though it sets alarm bells ringing all over the ship and brings the vessel to a complete stop. Oh, this I have to see. What are you doing, Naruto-san? You mustn't touch it. But this is an emergency situation. Just look at these handcuffs. You know full well that's not what the alarm is for. If you were to bring this vessel to a standstill for no good reason, you'd be in an even worse situation. I wish everything would just stop, this ship included. If you have to do something foolish, at least make it something that doesn't affect anyone else. First class cabin number 1. Yes, that's our cabin. Not our cabin, it's Cosmo-sama's. Sorry? Your accommodation is confined to the wardrobe inside the cabin. You know how to make a stowaway feel small, don't you? As small as the wardrobe I'm calling home. These cabins are the finest on the ship. My own cabin is in steerage is number 539, by the way. 500 and... how many cabins are there? This is it. This is the cabin next to ours. The one the ventilator connects to. Yes, the ventilator from which Kazuma-sama wrote that he saw a speckled band emerging. Maybe whoever's in this cabin can help solve that particular mystery. Let's ask. Knock, knock. No answer. We're out of luck, it seems. There's no one in there to help with our inquiries. How annoying. Ah! What was that? It came from inside the cabin. Such a high-pitched scream. It must have been a woman. Stand aside. I'm about to break the door down. Mr. Sholmes! I shan't be stopped. When the fit is on me, I revel in kicking doors off their hinges. Please, wait, Mr. Sholmes. The door doesn't appear to be bolted. It doesn't? Then how the deuce can I dispatch this muscular urge? What, pray, can I kick? I think we should go in. There's no time to think about stress relief. 9th of January. SS Burra, first class cabin number 2. Who are you? A Western gentleman? This man looks Russian to me. We heard a woman scream. A woman? Don't be absurd. As you can see, there's nobody but me in this cabin. True, this old man does appear to be the only person in here. But in that case, who just screamed? Get out, all of you, now! Please excuse the intrusion, but you're Mr. Grimsby Roylett, I believe. Yes, that's me. And you are... I am the one and only, the actual Herlock Sholmes. You've heard of me, no doubt. No. I'm a great detective among great detectives, one who adorns the covers of popular magazines, no less. So I assure you, you may trust me completely. You do not look very trustworthy, Mr. Sholmes. The man uses that magazine like a business card. A detective? I do not trust detectives. We distinctly heard a scream emanating from within these walls. But there wouldn't appear to be a lady concealing herself within the wardrobe this time. So might I be so bold as to ask you to open that small traveling case? What? Don't be stupid. How could anyone fit in a small trunk like that? Well, it's quite fashionable these days, is it not? Traveling inside one's trunk. Don't look at me. Oh my. Did you see that, Mr. Naruto? Yes, the case just shook. Leave, now, otherwise, I'll cost the steward. So this is Kazuma's neighbor, Mr. Grimsby Roylott. There's no doubt about it. This strange Russian man is hiding something. I couldn't agree more. Let's see if we can find some clues before that burly sailor returns. This is thoroughly, but I can't find anything out of place. What do you think you're doing? Ah! This is my cabin! Get out! Could we just have a quick look inside your traveling case, perhaps? No! Ha! What a pity. I think we're out of luck. I think you're right. There doesn't appear to be anything more we can do. I agree, but there may be someone else who can help. Perhaps that great detective could get somewhere with Mr. Roylott. I don't know. What do you think you're doing? Okay, so that's what I may have been. Do you have a moment, please, Mr. Sholmes? Does he have a revolver on him? You need only address me as Sholmes. That's what I just said, isn't it? Well, Mr. Sholmes, what were you doing in there? Why, I was resting, of course. Resting? Indeed. I was contemplating our sea voyage from the confines of the wardrobe whilst waiting. Waiting for the inevitable time that you would need to call my great powers of detection into service. Oh, and it would seem that the hour is upon us now. The time has come. Am I mistaken? Well, no, actually, you are spot on for once. Observe closely. Our Russian host in this cabin, Mr. Roylaw, is clearly trying to hide something. And do you know what the most effective weapon to use against a Russian hiding a secret? Why? The truth, of course! Though it should be pointed out that such methods are not exclusively for the Russians. Right. Can you imagine how the Russian will react when the secret he guards so closely is exposed? I keep yawning. It's a little annoying. Would you like to witness it? Oh yes, please. Well then, what are you about to see? May well astound you. For I am about to apply my great detective's greatly admired deduction to the case. Could this man be a more hackneyed portrayal of a dubious Russian, I ask you? What? From the time to time it occurs to me. Is the fellow dubious on account of his Russianness, or Russian on account of his dubiousness? I really don't think either of those things should be occurring to you, or anyone. That's right, and Mr. Sholmes... I know this man's beard and dark glasses are hard to ignore, especially on first meeting, but I once read, it is a capital mistake to theorize before you have all the evidence. It biases the judgment. Shh, I must have complete silence. What are you doing? Why are you peering on my face like that? Ah, just as I thought. Yes, I have quite made up my mind now. There can be no other explanation that accommodates all the facts. Mr. Roylott, I have reached two incontrivable conclusions. What do you mean? Number one, your true identity is that of a villain. Using those shears, you're about to end the existence of something most dear. Are you not? Huh? And number two, the other conclusion I have drawn. You are, at this very moment no less, in the midst of committing a most grievous crime. Beneath that beard, your mouth quivers with nervous tension as you realize you have been discovered. Does it not? Ah! Oh, Naruhodo-san, I never imagined I would witness one of Mr. Sholmes' great deductions with my very own eyes. That was a great deduction? Nothing can deceive Mr. Sholmes. In a single glance, he can deduce all there is to know about a person. What an ineffable twaddle. Oh yes, I've read about it countless times in the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. And now I've experienced the astonishing impact of his great deduction firsthand. This is like a dream come true. I can hardly believe it, but all the color has drained from Mr. Roylott's face. It looks as like somehow both Mr. Sholmes' conclusions were right. How could I possibly know such things? You wish to say? Very well then, I shall elucidate. I shall explain how it was that I arrived at this pair of conclusions. So do I cordially invite you, upon a journey of logical discovery, let us board the train of reasoning. Put plainly, let us work through my deductions together. Ooh, that's actually interesting. Topic 1, Old Man's Identity. So the dubious-looking Russian, Mr. Roylott, obviously, what catches the eye in the first place is the enormous pair of shears in your hand. Now we ask ourselves, what could you possibly want with such an implement? The answer, of course, is staring us in the face. You were on the verge of using the shears to cut away the copious beard of yours. Now, moving on. Something wasn't right about that. The question that begged is this. Why would you desire to rid yourself of your magnificent beard, Mr. Roylott? Once again, the answer is plain. We have clear evidence to shed light on the matter. Regard, if you will, this morning's newspaper, in particular the fascinating front-page article, which it would appear you have read also, Mr. Roylott. I'm sure it needs no further clarification. The evidence that reveals your true identity is the article about the revolutionary. In translation, the headline reads, Revolutionary Villain Bolshevik Flees Russia via Shanghai. As you cannot fail to observe, the subject of the article poses an extremely copious beard. Having noted the article yourself, you decided to remove your incriminating facial hair before it gave you away. In short, your true identity is beyond doubt. You are the fearsome Russian revolutionary himself, Villain Bolshevik. Actually, want to check this real quick. Did tell us to check the backside earlier. This is interesting. Have you found something relevant, Naruto-san? Well, no, I mean, it looks like it might be interesting. I can't read a single word, I'm afraid. No, nor can I, but look at this picture. Perhaps it's about a beautiful young Russian princess, do you think? She is very pretty, isn't she? I suppose you enjoy articles like this, do you? I don't know. I can't make any sense of it. Ah, I'm glad you noticed this article. Ah. Allow me to give you a short summary of its contents. Oh, thank you. He pops up everywhere, this Mr. Sholmes. It's about the disappearance of a young lady last night. Renowned prima ballerina of the Novovich Ballet disappears from Shanghai. During her performance in Shanghai, the famous dancer was reported missing. She is, of course, the talented young Nikolina Pavlova. Why are Russian names so hard to remember? It would appear the woman was in costume when she was found to be missing from a dressing room, wearing the diamond tiara you see pictured, which is worth some 20,000 rubles. I don't know how much that is in USD, but it sounds like a lot. Oh, how much is 20,000 rubles? I have no idea, but I'm quite sure it must be an unbelievable sum of money. Sada-san's eyes are shining like diamonds themselves. The tiara is the property of Novovich Ballet. It would seem the director is beside herself with worry. Yes, I'm not surprised. The company is most anxious to recover both Miss Pavlova and the valuable tiara. They've requested international assistance at all ports with sailings to Great Britain. Could this be another case of a Russian fleeing his or her country? It does seem to be the Russian thing to do. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response, Mr. Naruto. The article about the ballerina has been added to the court record. Okay. You're the fearsome... Okay. Not that I've heard of you myself, you understand. Revolutionary on the run. Topic 2. Wrongdoing. Now, as for my second conclusion. You are, at this very moment, on the brink of committing a most grievous crime. And the proof of this crime? Over there. Oh yes, Mr. Roylott. Taken unawares, people have a propensity to let their eyes astray, you see. Ah. And I assure you, the eyes speak so much more eloquently and honestly than the mouth. The answer we seek lies where the furtive glance falls. The proof of your crime sits before our very eyes. Yes, that traveling case. It is time, I think, that the case be opened and its contents laid bare. No, I refuse. What could you possibly be concealing inside, we ask? By my estimation, a young lady, perhaps, one slight enough to fit therein. Don't be absurd. And what, pray, would be the identity of this young lady in the traveling case? Dear me, we are not well suited to a life of crime, are we? You careless coup d'oeil betrays you. Once again, we need only follow your furtive glance to find the answer. Yes, the reason you refuse to open your traveling case can equally be found in the pages of this newspaper, for there is another, most stimulating article. If we turn from the fleeing revolutionary to the back page, renowned prima ballerina of the Novovich Ballet disappears from Shanghai. Such a headline can lead us to but one conclusion. Your crime is that of abduction. And according to the article, the young lady's name is Nikolona Pavlova. London kidnapping of a young ballerina. A lot of off with what he said, based off of question marks. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of the Russian enigma, Elemensky. Assume I'll have to do that a lot in this game. Sasada-san, that wasn't one of the great deductions I've been hearing so much about, was it? Well, the stories are full of Mr. Sholmes' brilliant deductions, you know. But that did seem a little different somehow. Excuse me, Mr. Sholmes, could you come over here for a moment? Pray, what can I do for you? It's about your deductions. Would you mind? Not at all, go on. Well, to start with, there's the newspaper article. I think we had the same discussion before, but these two men look nothing like each other. Ah yes, I recall our discussion earlier, and at the time I believe I told you that the man is revolutionary, able to revolutionize his own appearance. In fairness to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Roylott does look more like this man than you do. That is not the point. And another thing, the part about him abducting the ballerina. Indeed, a truly startling revelation. At first glance, the case would appear too small to accommodate a young woman. Not just at first glance, it is too small, clearly. You'd be lucky to fit a 5-year-old child into that case, even if you pushed really hard. I don't suppose the missing ballerina is a 5-year-old child, is she? You mean you don't know? No, the young lady is 15. No, I didn't know. How could I? If she's 15, that 10 years worth of her would be poking out from the case. Some years ago, I read something pertinent, I believe. A troop of men consuming vinegar daily in order to promote a certain litheness in their bodies. A vinegar? For such a sour bunch, it would surely be simplicity itself to contort oneself into the confines of that small case. Oh dear, you might be thinking of contortionists in the circus, Mr. Sholmes. Ugh, this whole thing is turning into a circus. Mr. Naruhodo, something has occurred to me about Mr. Sholmes' deductions just now. I think his powers of observation are, well, magical. His eyes cut to the heart of a matter almost instantly. It's just where he directs his attention is logic that seem a little off. Your idea of maybe a little off itself, Miss Sasato. It's just one or two key words in his deduction that seem to let him down. So I was wondering if we might perhaps tactically switch them for alternatives. What do you think? Switch some key words in his deductions. Yes, but very tactfully. I feel sure if we could do that, we'd unlock the true genius of Mr. Sholmes' great deduction. Precisely, the thought that was going through my own mind. This man is a lot of work. At times, I wonder how anyone puts up with me. Ah, it's not that funny. And my good fellow. Sorry? Take a moment to look at your wrists. My wrists? I'm decuffed. Ah, where are your handcuffs? Huh? How did... I felt they may hinder your ability to follow me in our dance of deduction. I don't believe it. Mr. Sholmes, you are a marvel. And don't worry, I shall restore the shackles to your wrists when we are finished. I am not worried. In fact, I'd rather stay like this. So, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Old man's identity, a revolutionary on the run. So the dubious... Okay. Don't have to reread this. Enormous pair of shears in your hand. That is correct. Now we ask ourselves, what could you possibly want with such an implement? The answer, of course, is staring us in the face. You were on the verge of using the shears to cut away the copious beard of you sport. I'm not sure. Would you really use shears like that to cut off a beard? I doubt that's something I'll ever have to worry about. It doesn't quite sit right with me, though. It doesn't seem right to be sitting right with Mr. Roylott either, which means I suppose that the deduction is wrong. Let's try to switch a keyword here, Naruto-san, and see if it helps matters. Alright, but how? I think we should start by taking a long, hard look at Mr. Roylott. I wonder if it's really his beard that he intended to use those shears on. Exactly. If we do manage to find something that seems to fit the sense of Mr. Sholmes' deduction better, then what? Then I'll leave the rest in your capable hands, Naruto-san. Why am I the one to do something about this? Well, anyway, let's see if there's anything we could even use to switch around in that last sentence. What exactly was Mr. Roylott really going to use those enormous shears for? I mean, it seems pretty obvious if you look at it. What's this? It looks like a cascade of stunning golden locks. No. The color is not the point. The point is, what's it doing on the back of Mr. Roylott's head? And how is it growing out from underneath his thick black hair? Well, yes, that is true. So it's stunningly beautiful and stunningly surprising. It's something's definitely not right here.
Yes!
Present that. Golden locks. The golden locks you sport. You were on the verge of using the shears to cut away the golden locks you sport. Indeed. You have identified the precise detail I was intending to expose. Such lush golden hair certainly does not befit an old man. You're not a man at all. You're a woman, and judging from the length and sheen of your hair, one's still very much in her youth. Oh no. If only I'd managed to cut off my hair, no one would have suspected. The question then begged is this: why would you desire to rid yourself of these magnificent locks? Once again, the answer is plain. We have clear evidence to shed light on the matter. I'm sure it needs no further clarification. The evidence that reveals her true identity is the article of the revolution about the revolutionary. Well, that was a shock. I had no idea the old man was really a young woman in disguise, did you? What? Why are you staring at me like that? Yes, it was a surprise, Naruto-san. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Sorry? You look like you're in your element as you dance around the room, deducing the facts with Mr. Sholmes. I'm just doing what we agreed. I'm not having any fun or anything. This is strictly business. Yes, I understand. Say no more. Well, anyway, let's focus on this next part, Mr. Sholmes' deduction, shall we? The evidence that he's picked out doesn't fit the facts at all. No, that's true. Given that Mr. Royla is actually a woman. Exactly, he, or rather she, can't possibly be this merciless revolutionary. I suppose it's because the deduction as a whole has taken a different direction now. Yes, let's switch the evidence for something else. Something that fits the facts as we now understand them. For some reason, this woman needed to try to hide her true identity. I feel as though I've either read or heard about a young woman in a situation like that recently. Alright, I'll do my best.
Yes!
Article about the ballerina. The evidence that reveals your true identity is, of course, the article about the ballerina. That's right, you've hit the nail on the head. Renowned prima ballerina of the Novovich Ballet disappears from Shanghai. It would appear we are finally able to address you by your true name. Yes, because your true identity is that of the Novovich Ballet's prima ballerina. Miss Nikolona Pavlova. You are right. My real name is Nina. I mean, Nikolona Pavlova. But please, I beg you, don't tell anyone. Solved. Topic 2, wrongdoing. Now, as for my second conclusion, you are, at this very moment, on the brink of committing a most grievous crime. And the proof of this crime? Over there. Oh yes, Miss Pavlova. Taken unawares, people have a propensity to let their eyes astray. You see? Ah, and I assure you, the eye speaks so much more eloquently and honestly than the mouth. The answer we seek lies where the furtive glance falls. The proof of your crime sits before our very eyes. Yes, the traveling case. This woman is the ballerina, and she is right in front of our eyes, so clearly she can't be inside that traveling case as well. No, that's right, it seems she wasn't abducted at all. In which case, what is the crime this young woman is apparently committing? Ha, I can see I'm going to have to step in and fix the great detective's mistake again. You seem to look pleased, Naruto-san. Do you like the idea of another chance to dance around with Mr. Sholmes? Stop it. Anyway, there must be something else here that shows what this woman is up to. Wow, look at this dazzling tiara. I've never seen anything like it. Are those real diamonds, do you think? Oh, Naruto-san, try it on. What? Me? Isn't it usually girls who wear tiaras? Wouldn't you like to try it on? Oh, no, I couldn't possibly. It's far too beautiful. Why does this tiara look familiar? I feel like I've seen it somewhere recently. The waste paper basket? Let's have a little look inside. Naruto-san, it's poor etiquette to go sifting through someone's rubbish, you know. Ugh, those eyes. She's looking at me like I'm a piece of rubbish now. However, these are special circumstances, I think. Exactly, we have no choice. There's hardly anything in here at all. Oh, well, that's a little disappointing. It's a very small case, isn't it? You can see instantly that no person could possibly fit inside there. So does that tell us that Miss Pavlova's telling glance in this direction was focused on something else? If that's true, though, it doesn't make sense. What do you mean? Well, if there's nothing incriminating inside this case, why does she refuse to let us look inside? Yes, I wonder why. Perhaps she has a perfectly harmless reason, though. Well, can I look inside it, or... I'll present this. So, no. Yeah. One moment a bearded Russian gentleman, the next a sweet prima ballerina. But your true identity is that of a master thief, and this old case of yours is filled with loot. Okay. Are you quite concentrating? You've identified exactly what I did originally. Oh yes, so I have. Sorry. Well, I do understand, as imitatable as I am, people do like to try. But you won't make a great detective like that. Not even a great detective's assistant. An assistant's assistant, then. Alright, I'll think again. Okay, so it is the crown that I have to present. Crimes come in so many different forms. That's the thing. How can we be so sure? Mr. Sholm's observational skills are beyond question, Naruhodo. Miss Pavlova definitely let her eyes stray to something, and that something will explain everything. We must look around very carefully and try to work out what she was looking at. Alright, I'll investigate the area more thoroughly. I agree that there must be something here that will prove that this woman is really guilty of. It's theft of this crown.
Yes!
The proof of your crime is surely this tiara. Oh. I believe this tiara is worn on stage by dancers in the Novovich Ballet, is it not? Indeed, it would appear to be identical to the tiara pictured here in this newspaper article. And if the reporting is to be believed, it's an item worth 20,000 rubles. In summary, the crimes you have committed is theft. Oh no. Yes, you left your ballet troupe unlawfully, taking their precious tiara with you. Ah. I have no one, no family, no friends. I am all alone, and I need money. But I did not steal the tiara. It was a present from, how do you say, an Earl of Prussia? It belongs to me. This girl is only 15 years old, and she's run away all by herself. She must have been extremely lonely. Alright, I will tell you everything. There is no point to hiding it now. Come, let us not be hasty. What? There remains one unsolved mystery about you. Mystery? What do you mean? You have staunchly refused to open the traveling case of yours in our presence. It is reasonable to conclude that there exists some reason why you wish it to remain closed. Is that not so, Miss Pavlova? My dear girl, there is no use in playing games with me. Nothing escapes my attention. Indeed, I have a very good idea of the contents of your case even before I've laid my eyes on them. Dear me, we are not well suited to a life of crime, are we? Your careless coup d'oeil betrays you. Once again, we need only follow your furtive glance to find the answer. Yes, the reason why you refuse to open your case is written in the books on the shelf. He's completely changed tack with his deduction now. I think Mr. Sholmes is adapting his logic to the changing circumstances, don't you? Maybe, but why has he suddenly brought the bookshelf into all of this? It's just a wild guess, surely. Oh, do you think so? Well, it doesn't seem likely that the reason why this young woman doesn't want to open her case would have been written in a book that doesn't even belong to her. Yes, that's true, but still. Miss Pavlova did certainly cast her eyes in that direction. I noticed it myself. Then there has to be another reason why she won't open her case, and it must be somewhere in the same area, if that's where her gaze was involuntarily drawn. I agree, that's the only answer. Whatever she has hidden inside that case should be revealed by following her gaze in the direction of the bookcase. These are the rules of passage for travel aboard the SS Buria. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. There was exactly the same notice in our cabin, too. I wonder what happens if we break the rules. Oh dear, I'm sure the punishment would be severe, Naruto-san. You'd probably be left to drift in the freezing ocean, cold ocean, or shut inside a tiny wardrobe for days on end. So I've actually been serving times for weeks now, have I? I'm gonna present this.
Yes!
Written in the rules of passage. I believe she has a pet with her. Yes, the reason why you refuse to open your case is written in the rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Inside that case of yours is something forbidden from the carriage on this vessel. That is the real reason why you refuse to open it, thus revealing its contents. As we've seen, the trunk wobbles from time to time, but no weapon or other dangerous item would move of its own accord. Which leaves but one possibility, Miss Pavlova. Inside your traveling case is the last item listed as forbidden in the vessel's rules of passage of pet. Ah. Possession of a prohibited animal. Solved. Deduction complete. Elementary. I am going to take a little break because I've been talking for the past 2 hours, and I will be back shortly. Okay, I'm back. While I was gone, I looked for a webcam, but I couldn't find one, so still gonna be stuck with the picture in the corner. So clearly, you aren't who you said you were. No, I am not Grimsby Roylet. My real name is Nikolona Pavlova. Everything you said was correct. You absconded during one of your ballet company's performances in order to escape your homeland. Later that same night, you stole aboard this vessel, which couldn't have been easy. The Berea is a huge steamship with a vast crew. Could you have really snuck on board without being noticed? In order to obscure your true identity, you somewhat recklessly took the guise of an old gentleman. And you intended to sever all links with your past by severing your long hair. Yet to a woman, hair is no trifling matter. My personal recommendation is to leave well alone. So, if it was just you about to cut off your own hair, who was it that let out the scream we heard from outside the cabin? That veritable tinkling of a bell? Why, none other than this young lady, naturally. Or like a full set of pipes, if you ask me. I was so scared when I ran away in Shanghai. I was sure they would come looking for me. That's why I decided to, how do you say, disgust myself, so no one would recognize me. As a result, you transformed yourself into that questionable old man? I see. I put on the fur hat and fake beard? Then just before you came in here, I saw in the newspaper, right on the page, there was a picture of me. I was so frightened, I couldn't stop from screaming. I knew if I didn't change my appearance completely, they would find me. So I decided to cut all my hair as fastly as possible. I picked up the scissors in my hand and... At that precise moment, we walked in through the annoyingly unlocked cabin door. Things happen like that sometimes, don't they? Things do indeed happen like that, from time to time. Are those two even talking about the same thing? There's just one more thing I'd like to know. What exactly do you have inside your traveling case? You were right. It is my dear friend inside, my only friend in the whole world. Please, don't tell anyone. If the captain finds out, if you say to any of the crew, your secret is safe with us, I assure you. But in return, you must tell us in as much detail as you can muster about the events of last night. Yes, alright. I will tell you. Well, Mr. Naruto? Wasn't it something, Mr. Shon's great deduction? It was certainly something, yes. It's just not entirely sure what. But at least Miss Pavlova has agreed to tell us what she knows. That's incredible. Indeed, it is incredible. Ah, and one more thing. Oh, yes? What? Check your wrists. Observe your wrists. My... Ah, your hands are cuffed again. What? But how? True to my word, I have restored your shackles. Grr, when and why? There is still a shadow of guilt cast over you, Mr. Naruto. I'm sorry to say, it can't be helped at the moment. Can't it, really? Anyway, let's listen to what Miss Pavlova has to say. I can't go on not knowing. I have to find out what the speckled band that Kazuma-sama wrote about in his diary really was. What happened last night? Did you know that someone was killed in the cabin next door to this one last night? One of the crewmen told me this morning when I was eating breakfast. The man who died, he was a friend of mine. Oh, that's where we're trying to find out what happened. Did you notice anything unusual last night? Perhaps you heard a strange noise, for example? Perhaps people talking? Perhaps the ship was absorbed in a wild tempest? Perhaps its steam engine exploded? Perhaps everyone on board would have noticed if that happened. Miss Pavlova, is there anything you can tell us? I don't know. I'm sorry, but all I can think about last night was what I had done and whether they would find me. I didn't notice anything that was happening around me. Oh, I see. You've run away from your ballet company, have you? Haven't you? The Novovich Ballet? Yes. I am traveling to Great Britain, and from there, I want to go to America. You probably don't. I will never dance again. I want to forget everything about the ballet. I will start a new life. You wish to forget? A challenging proposition. When you have that striking tiara as a reminder. But the tiara is mine. I need it to live. I have no money of my own. The Novovich Ballet gives us only a little food and water, and we must dance all over the world. I had to run away. I had no choice. If I stayed, it would have killed me. So you ran away to protect yourself? Yes, and the crew of the ship, they have all been kind to me. They let me come on aboard and they said I could hide in this cabin. If that is indeed the truth, Miss Pavlova, it creates a most intriguing conundrum. Yes, it does. What do you think about it, Mr. Naruto? Me? Oh well, yes, of course. I think we should hear Miss Pavlova's explanation to what conundrum. I'm not sure, but Miss Pavlova, allow me to pose you a riddle. According to this newspaper, it was only yesterday that you absconded from the ballet. Now, that being the case, it must have been last night that you boarded this vessel. However, the SS Buria stopped by no port last night. Ah, that's it, of course. So how is it, pray, that you came to be aboard? Now that I think about it, the crewman outside the cabin acted very strangely when we mentioned that. It was just after we asked him about what the occupant of this cabin, when the occupant of this cabin came aboard. That is not your business. Yes, you're right. He did seem to be hiding something. An angel descended from the heavens, bringing grace and beauty to the stage. Sorry, what was that? It's how the Russian newspaper described one of my performances. And that is how I came here too. I descended from the heavens, because I am an angel. Considering English isn't your mother tongue, your description is very vivid. Mr. Sholmes once said, I never can resist a touch of the dramatic. It seems Miss Pavlova is the same. A genius descended from the heavens, bringing grace and beauty to detection. Words once said about myself, a quote from a wonderfully extravagant advertisement for the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, in fact. Yes, Mr. Showy. Anyway, it doesn't look like Miss Pavlova is going to tell us what really happened. So the friend you mentioned is inside your traveling case, is that right? I don't think animals are allowed on board according to the rules of passage. Oh please, don't tell any of the crew. If they found my precious, then the burly Russians would bestir themselves in unison to throw you and your case overboard, no doubt. Ah, so reassuring, Mr. Holmes. But what sort of pet is your friend? A little puppy? It is? Isn't it? Maybe an adorable little rabbit? Ha! You credit Russian as a land with small rabbits, do you? Oh, don't they have small rabbits there then? You may well ask. I have no idea. Ha. You two are miserable bunglers when it comes to understanding the nature of young ballerina's friends. Isn't it obvious? It must be a chicken! What do you mean it must be a chicken? There's no way that you would just have a chicken in a case like that. Really? Consider the benefits. A rousing wake-up call, daily fresh eggs, and when adversity strikes, it could satisfy the needs of sustenance. So you'd eat your friends. I'll remember that. No, not a chicken. Well, it would appear this friend's identity is closely guarded secret, not to be revealed. Ah ha ha. She obviously doesn't quite trust us yet. There's something I should like to show her, I think. Maybe she might be able to shed some light on it. Well, I need to go back and present it then. I'll present Cosmo's diary. This is the diary of my friend who passed away. His diary? Yes, and he wrote in it last night before he died, something a little unusual. It reads, 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. And then, a few minutes later, 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band I don't understand. It's strange, isn't it? But the ventilator he mentions joins to this cabin, you see. It's up there on the wall. In other words, this cabin and the victim's cabin are connected together. Oh. Miss Pavlova? Has something occurred to you? Does the speckled band the victim mentions mean something to you? Or the whistling sound, perhaps? No. I don't know anything. Oh. Knock knock. It's Mr. Stroganoff. Excuse me, Mr. Roylett. Yes, what? Wow, she's fast. Captain would like to speak with you. You must come to Captain's quarters at once, please. Alright, I will come now. What? You must leave, now. Oh no, it's fine. Don't mind us. Yes, please, don't worry about yourself, Mr. Roylott. Get out! The passenger said out, or do you want me to throw you out? Ugh, it looks like we'll have to leave investigating this cabin until later. What a pity. And so we lost our chance. Having still not managed to investigate Miss Pavlova's cabin, we were unceremoniously chased out. That is to say, we were quite literally picked up and thrown into the passageway outside. To be continued. Okay. 9th January, SS Buria, first class cabin passageway. I wish we hadn't been thrown out like that. I wish you'd managed to find some clues as to what that speckled band might be. We didn't manage to investigate at all. And I imagine that we won't be able to for a while longer. We'll never get past that sailor guarding the door. He's clearly glaring at us as if to say, don't even think about it. Oh, wait a minute. What is it? Well, what happened to our great detective friend? Where did he go? I'm going to turn on, story mode. Wait. Never mind. Oh yes, he's completely disappeared. When did he do that? He slipped away as quietly as the wind, but not before ensuring these were securely back on my wrists. Okay. Let's move back into Cosmo's cabin. 9th January, SS Buria, first class, cabin number 1. It looks like they're still investigating in here. Yes, on that subject, I wonder if Inspector Hosanaga is unscathed. What do you mean, unscathed? Surely you haven't forgotten, have you, Naruto-san? Don't you remember what he said about allowing you out of this cabin to investigate? He was going to talk to the captain about it. He said he'd lay his life on the line for you. Oh, yes. But I'm sure he was exaggerating. Let's see what he has to say for himself. He might have some new information for us. You never know. There he is. He looks like he was beaten to a pulp. Ah, you're back. Inspector! What happened to you? Your face is... Please, don't worry about it. They're just scratches. Maybe by a bear, maybe. When I told the captain that I'd given you permission to investigate, he told me he'd pummel me with his fists and then toss me overboard. What? I need to turn off autoplay. But the pummeling was over in a flash, and he must have decided against throwing me overboard. So it was nothing, really. It looks like he wasn't joking when he said he'd lay his life on the line if he had to. Well, thanks to your efforts, we now know a little bit about our neighboring cabin. Yes, so I understand. Oh! I bumped into a man claiming to be a great detective a little while ago. I think his name was something like Herlock Sholmes. I don't think he was German, though. Ah, that explains it. Shall we compare notes, then? We can tell you what we found out. Yes, let's do it. Cabin next door. What? Nikolina Pavlova, she's in the cabin next door? Oh, do you know who she is? Please, what self-respecting ballet fan wouldn't know that graceful angel? Coughs up blood. Oops, I think I upset him there. Well, that tells us the neighboring cabin is unrelated to the case at least. Oh, how? Because angels don't go around committing crimes, do they? Oops, now I've definitely upset him. Inspector, has your investigation here proved fruitful? If I'm honest, there's very little more I can do. Our duty is to make sure the scene isn't disturbed, ready to hand over to the Hong Kong police. So I'm just keeping watch here, trying not to take my eyes off the job. Oh, I see. Ah, there is one thing. I do have a small piece of information for you. Oh, what? Yes, do tell us, Inspector, please. What is this new information you have, Inspector? It's this. The Buria's medical officer has finished his examination of the body. I managed to obtain the report. Oh, Cosmo's post-mortem report? Cosmo-san. So, what was the cause of death? Damage to the cervical vertebrae is what's written in the report. His neck was broken? Yes, it would seem so. There were no obvious wounds or signs of injury, so at first I think they were considering poison. But it turns out they found no trace of poison in his system at all. Well, what weapon was used then? Nothing has been found as yet, but the fact that there are no signs of a wound suggests it may have been a blunt object, something that wouldn't leave a mark. Oh, I see. All the body's nerves run through the spine to the brain. A strong enough impact to the neck could induce death. It is a possibility and no obvious wound would be left. Poor Kazuma. I have a second copy of the report. If it might be useful, you're welcome to have it. Really? Are you sure? Yes, it's fine. I trust you. After all, if I didn't trust you, I'd never have agreed to you leaving the cabin in the first place, would I? Ah. The postmortem report has been added. The great detective. Oh, Mr. Sholmes was here, was he? Yes. He seemed to be enjoying himself a little too much as he crept about on the floor investigating. But then he suddenly left. I suppose he must have become bored. Did he say anything at all? Actually, now you mention it, yes. Just one thing, but he practically shouted it. It's shoe polish! Was all he said. Shoe polish? I wonder what he meant. It was when he was over there by the piece of broken glass, do you see? That's shoe polish then. Ah, perhaps he was talking about this brick-colored mark, do you think? Ah, yes, that must be it. But how can Mr. Sholmes know it's shoe polish? That leaves me cold, I'm afraid. I have no idea. What is it, Sasada-san? Well, Kazuma-sama was wearing leather shoes with a dark tan hue. Dark tan? A sort of dark brownish red, then. A little like the color of red wine, but darker. I often repaired them for him. Okay. Oh, does this mean that this mark was made by the polish on Kazuma's shoes as they scuffed on the floor? The floor has been added to your record. That's really all I could tell you at this stage. I should return to my post. My fellow crewmen's eyes are boring into the back of my head. Yes, that might be for the best. Thank you. Poor Inspector, you look exhausted. Oh, no. Well. I feel terrible that I failed to protect Asugi-san. He was my responsibility. Of course, my pain is nothing compared to yours. You were his friends. The truth is, it seemed to have a heavy head since I woke up this morning. A heavy head. That's interesting. My head's still throbbing, too. I don't think there's anything new I can look over here. This is where Kazuma spent his final moments writing in his diary. 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. Looking at his writing here on this page, it's almost impossible to believe that he's gone. Kazuma-sama left us a valuable clue in these words, I'm sure of it. We have to solve this mystery, Naruto-san. We will. So this ventilator joins to Miss Pavlova's cabin. Yes, that's right. And just a few minutes before he died, Kazuma saw something emerging from it. The speckled band, as he described it. If only Miss Pavlova had been able to shed some light on it, but she seemed as baffled as we are. Yes, I wonder if she's telling us everything, though. I'm not sure. I know most people aboard would say the same about me, but there was something about that woman that didn't sit right with me. Okay. All the books provided for passengers occupying this cabin neatly arranged on the shelf. They were all over the place when we first looked around, if you remember. Oh yes, and you tidied them up, didn't you? You have to look after the ship's property. Unruly behavior in the cabins leads to damage. But it really wasn't me who knocked them over. Well, anyway, I feel much better now that they are neatly lined up. I can't relax when things are untidy. Is there anything new? So it's clear that these letters were written with the ink that was somehow spilled on the floor, and they spell the Russian word for wardrobe. It does seem to be an unambiguous pointer to you, Naruto-san, as you were sleeping in there, but to be truly unambiguous, it should have just spelled out my name, don't you think? Well, either way, one fact remains. It's hard to imagine that Kazuma-sama would have written his last words or word in Russian, which begs the question of who did write it. You, where did you go? Oh, sorry, I just went... Why? Who gave you permission for this? Well, I mean, Seaman Hosonaga did. That new Japanese, was it? Later, I will roll him into a ball and throw him in cold room. Woo, he's gone back to guarding the door. I hope Inspector Hosonaga doesn't find himself in too much trouble on our account. He's really gone out of his way to help us, hasn't he? When we get back to Japan, we'll have to take him for a steak at La Carnival. That could be a very long time from now, Naruto-san. You're gonna have to treat him somewhere else. Look at the cloth. There's nothing on this table at all. The plate and cutlery are all over the floor for some reason. Yes, it's strange. Last night when I went to sleep, I'm sure everything was still. No, wait a minute. What is it? That's funny. I can't seem to remember anything about what happened after dinner at all. So then perhaps you are responsible for what happened to Kazuma-sama. No. Let's look back over here. Scan. This tassel thing. This is, yes, it's a bell cord contraption, I think. What do you mean, contraption? I read about it in a book I was studying that talked about life in Great Britain. Large households often have bell cords like this, which you can pull to ring a bell to summon servants. Really? That sounds almost magical. Shall we give it a little try? Yes! In the interest of cultural research, obviously. I suppose nobody comes for lowly Japanese people. No, I'm sure it's just that everyone is busy, that's all. Can I move out or something? Back. Glass passageway. So I can leave the room. 9th January. Okay. Cabin passageway. Ah! Look, Naruto-san. Seaman Stroganoff has gone. Strong enough? The burly Russian sailor who's always crossing his arms and glaring at us. Ugh, all these Russian names are impossible to remember. Tra-la-la. Did you hear that? It sounded like someone singing. Tra-la-la-li-la-la. I did it the great detective way. This caroling, I know that lark-like voice. Well, never mind that now. This is a golden opportunity for us. Yes, you are right. We must seize it. Let's get inside Miss Pavlova's cabin while we can and investigate. Definitely, before that stringy knot crewman comes back. It's Stroganoff, not stringy knot. Let's move into Pavlova's. Ooh, the trunk is open. 9th January, SS Buria, first class cabin number 2. Miss Pavlova isn't back yet. Sada-san, oh, where's she gone? Hey, what are you doing? Those are her private things. There's not a moment to waste, Naruto-san. We must investigate as quickly as we can. I suppose you're right, for Cosmo's sake. Not just for Cosmo-sama. What do you mean? It can't be long now until we arrive at a port in Hong Kong. I don't want you to be in those handcuffs when we get there. Really? We must solve this case, Naruto-san. By ourselves if we have to. Yes, we will. Oh my, Miss Pavlova's case is open. It's completely empty inside, but according to the great detective's great detection, she was hiding her special friend in there. Yes, a friend that she had to keep secret, because you're not allowed to bring animals aboard the SS Buria. I wonder what kind of animal she had in there. And more to the point, where is it now? Naruto-san, are you there? Sorry, I'm right here. Yes, why? Oh, good. I thought you might have climbed into the wardrobe when I wasn't looking. There's no place like home! Believe me, I don't have some strange compulsion to jump inside every wardrobe I see, you know. Well, anyway, I'm not sure anyone could fit inside this one. It's full of beautiful outfits. I suppose they're all stage costumes. I was rather hoping we might find Miss Pavlova's friend hiding there, but no such luck. There are just a few books on the desk and nothing else, by the looks of it. Well, Miss Pavlova only ran away from the ballet last night. She's hardly occupied this cabin for any time at all. That's true. I wonder what kind of book she likes to read. Let me see. Yes, I see. It would seem that Miss Pavlova enjoys reading books written in Russian. Thanks. I think I probably already knew that, though. It's rude to ask too much of people, Naruto-san. Kindly remember that. I wonder what this little saucer is doing on the floor. Yes, it doesn't look like it's been dropped, more like it was put there deliberately. Ah, do you think there could be a leak in the roof just above here? A leak? Is this ship quite safe? I'm sure that even if there's a little leak in the roof, it doesn't mean the whole ship is going to sink. No, you're right. Of course you're right. She's really trying to persuade herself, isn't she? It would seem this teapot is empty. So the natural conclusion is that the Russians are a very thirsty people. Or because Miss Pavlova only came into this cabin last night, she hasn't had the chance to make any tea yet. I mean, it could be either. It's definitely that they're excessively thirsty. I'd lay 1,000 to 1 on it. You're rather obstinate, aren't you, Naruto-san? All the books have toppled over together. Look, every single one. Do you think that's a god of the sea, perhaps? He's toppled too, though. It's exactly the same as the bookcase next door. In Cosmo's cabin. Perhaps Miss Pavlova was practicing a difficult ballet pose and fell against the bookcase? I don't know. Would she really be practicing ballet on the same night she ran away from her ballet company? Alright then. It must have been you. You lost your temper and knocked them all over in a fit of rage. Not everything bad happens on this ship is because of me, you know. Well, anyway, I'll set them all straight again in here too. I don't like seeing them in disarray. Ah yes, they're displayed in this cabin too. Look, the SS Burrio's rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. I suppose Miss Pavlova realized that she needed to keep the contents of her case a secret after she read this. Her special friend, I mean. I wonder where her friend has disappeared to now. It's probably having fun exploring the ship, I imagine. I just hope Seaman Stroganov doesn't find it and throw it overboard. Oh, yes, so do I. So this ventilator connects to Cosmo's cabin next door. Yes, although what a fool a shipbuilder must be to open a ventilator into another room. Ah, maybe. It's so that if there's a gas leak next door, the occupant of this cabin would notice and raise the alarm. Or the occupants of both cabins would die of gas poisoning. That is a possibility. Anyway, last night, Cosmo wrote that he saw a speckled band coming out of this ventilator. There's one of these next to the bed in Cosmos' cabin, too. Yes, it's a bell cord. I can't resist. She barely hesitated there, and she gave it a good tug, too. No, I didn't actually expect anyone to come. We don't want them to. We're trying to investigate in secret. This cabin door has the same simple sort of bolted latch that our cabin door has. If the bolt's drawn across, there's no way anyone could enter the cabin from the outside. Yes, it's not a particularly heavy-duty bolt, is it? But still, it wouldn't slide across of its own accord, would it? No, and the door is made of metal, so there's no chance of trickery using magnets to unbolt it from the outside. And it seals up perfectly too, to stop any seawater coming in. So you couldn't use the method you told me of passing a thread through a crack around the closed door either. I seem to know a lot of tricks for opening doors. I'm starting to see why they suspect me. I think that's everything in this room. Except for the waste basket. I suppose every cabin has a waste paper basket. Shall we have a little look and see what's been thrown away? Narhoda-san, it's poor etiquette to go through sifting through someone's rubbish. I exercise. Yeah, I've already read this. Oh, well, that's all I was wondering. And that should be everything. Let's move to first class. Oh, there he is. Oh, it's Mr. Sholmes. Look. Wow, you never know where he's going to turn up next, do you? He seems to be stealing a look at something as he sings to himself. Tra-la-la-leer-leer-lay. I did it the great detective way. He's still singing. Do you think he hasn't noticed us? Or he's simply in extremely high spirits. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when the yard bit off more than it could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, it's lucky Herlock was about. Excuse me. I solved it all and I stood tall. I did it in the great detective way. Mr. Sholmes. Ah, what is it? You want to fight? Hmm? Honestly, interrupting a fellow when he's singing, and I was just about to reach the climactic finish. I'm sorry, I thought you were never going to stop, so I figured now is as good a time as any. I very nearly dropped you to the floor with one of my very famous right hooks. Alright, I get the picture. Now, could you put those fists away? Mr. Sholmes, you seem to be examining something before we interrupted you. Ah, yes, that. I was immersed in studying of the ship's log, as penned by the stockily built crewman who's usually on guard here. Oh yes, the ship's log. And did you find out anything useful from it? Well, after 2 a.m. this morning, the majority of the entries are blank, which means that there was nothing to report. Nothing of note happened, so... Ah ha 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 ha! You truly are a student from the land of the rising sun. You've been utterly blinded by it. Ah ha ha. Sorry? Your logic, my boy, is inverted. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? Observe the other pages, and all shall become clear. It would seem the same crewman oft stands sentry in this first-class passageway, and he has an almost religious practicing of recording nothing to report every half hour. Oh, he writes that in every 30 minutes. Nothing to report. Precisely, but simply the seaman who writes nothing to report when there is just that. And yet, the ship's log from last night is largely blank. He didn't even write nothing to report. Do you mean... Yes. There were circumstances afoot last night which led to the seaman being absent from his post. What kind of circumstances? What happened? That remains a mystery for now, but we can be sure something significant took place. So significant that it caused the seaman to forget his regular habit of scribing nothing to report in the log. These are important details. I would stake my life on it. You must log the ship's log in your mental file. The ship's log has been entered into the court record. Now that deduction was worthy of a great detective. Ah, so you're starting to understand what my way is. I see what makes Sholmes brilliance. Ah ha 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 ha. Ow. Ooh, ouch. What is it? Are you hurt? Oh, don't worry yourself. I seem to be afflicted with a throbbing head this morning for some reason. Nothing more. Seems like everyone's got a headache. Well, my friends, until our next encounter. He's still singing to himself. I can hear it as he wanders down the passageway. Is something wrong, Sasada-san? You seem lost in thought. It's just... Well, I feel the same. Sorry? Ever since I woke this morning, I've had something of a headache. A sort of continuous throbbing. Oh, you too? I'm actually gonna end the stream here. Since the last time I streamed for about 4.5 hours, I'll cut the stream to like 3 hours this time. I hope that it was exciting and that everyone who watched the stream enjoyed it. The VOD will be on my VOD's channel, and I hope you like it. I'm gonna save here. And I'm going to start a raid, I guess, as I end this stream off.